Welcome. My name's Ian Campbell from Palliative Care Australia in Canberra on the lands of the Ngunnawal and Ngambri peoples. Welcome to Thursdays at 3, our regular series of conversations with people living and working at the end of life. Earlier this year, Josphine Lokai graduated as a registered nurse from the University of Canberra. Josphine moved to Australia from Kenya in 2017 with a real fire in her heart and soul following the death of her eldest son, Arnold, a decade ago. Her graduation in April of this year was a real milestone in her life, but as you're about to discover, Josphine has other dreams to achieve. Hello, Josphine.
Hello, Ian. Thank you for having me in board this morning to share my story.
Really looking forward to talking to you, Josphine.
Thank you.
Your graduation in April, you've been working at Canberra's hospice, Clare Holland House. Tell us about your work at Clare Holland House.
So at Clare Holland House, I am currently on a transition into Specialist Palliative Care as a new graduate nurse. So we work with a multidisciplinary team in looking after people with life-limiting illness, including cancer, multi-neuron disease, and other diseases like end-stage kidney failures. We have three categories of people who present in Clare Holland. There are those who are on palliative pathway. They come in for respite care. There are those who come in for pain and symptom management. And there are those who are nearing death, so they are coming for end-of-life care. So we as nurses, we do transition into either from the community or from the hospital. We do a set of assessment to get the baseline of our patients. We admit them, and then we let the doctors come and do their part by prescribing medication so that we can take up our part. Mm-hmm. Apart from that, we provide emotional support to our patients, and we give them that reassurance while in our care. We use evidence-based practices such as the Palliative Care Standards, the Nursing and Midwifery Board of Australia Standards, and other policies and procedures to guide our practice at Clare Holland House. And we also do referrals to allied health. So we have pastoral care team who come in to talk to them, support them in their emotional aspect, the physiotherapist, dietitian, social worker, and all other people, even including the administrative office. So we work as a team in Clare Holland House.
You're making me tired hearing about all that work, Josphine, but such an important service for the Canberra community, not only the hospice service, the acute service that you provide, but also the outreach, the community palliative care that springs from Clare Holland House. And that whole service is going through a bit of a change at the moment, and we salute all the people who are involved and carrying that extra weight at the moment that comes with change. Yes. Josphine, why did you get into palliative care? When you could have done anything in nursing, you chose to go in the direction of palliative care. I can't help but think the experience you've had with your eldest son, Arnold, influenced your decision to head down the palliative care path.
I think the decision to get into palliative care is to keep the memory of my late son, Arnold, who succumbed to cancer-related complications. The challenges that Arnold went through is what inspired me into nursing. So, and getting into nursing, I wasn't really specifically thinking of palliative care as a wide area to work on. My way was going into oncology and hematology. But later on, when I came to understand what palliative care is, it's not all about cancer. It's all about life-limiting illness, including respiratory diseases such as COPD. Then I'm like, I think this is where I want to go, because the challenges that I got with Arnold is at the end of life, that care. We didn't have quality life. And I thought I would want to work in Clare Holland House and in palliative care, get more understanding on how, when someone is end of life, how do you manage them or how do you help them to live a quality life?
Let's talk a bit more about Arnold, if that's okay, and the experience you had with Arnold around his death. Take us back to Kenya and your life back there.
So basically, before Arnold got sick, I used to work in the government office. So I was a marketer by profession for 13 years. And in 2013, the constitution of Kenya was changed, and women were allowed to vie for political positions. And I thought I had an agenda for the young women and generally the youth. So I took up the position and joined the slot. So I vied for a member of parliament as a women representative, and I became third. So after the elections, Arnold had symptoms of asthma. He got in and out of school oftenly, and I had to take him to hospital. And I remember they did some blood, they did some tests, and they said, "Oh, you boy, you don't want to go to school. You're trying to get out of school." And I was supporting the doctor. And my son got upset and said, "Mom, take me back to school." And in Kenya, we don't stay with our kids, Ian. We keep them in boarding schools the whole time. So we really have very short time with our kids. So Arnold will go to school. And at one point, around 3 weeks, when he went back to school, the doctors called me. The school called me and told me Arnold collapsed in school, and I had to go pick him up. He was coughing blood. Took him to the hospital, and they did a bit of some scans and bloods, and they say he's got low hemoglobin. So before then, we didn't even know what was happening. So he got admitted, and now the journey of his diagnosis began by then.
So you went from, I guess, an asthma diagnosis to cancer.
Yes. So I think Arnold was deteriorating, but I couldn't understand. Now with my education and training and working in Clare Holland, I've learned something called about the trajectory of disease. You go to hospital, you come back, you start presenting back to hospital, you on, off, something is cooking up or going on in your body. So if they don't catch it up very quickly, you will end up to that where you're going to have the illness is going to be overwhelming to your body. So I really missed a lot of things in between with the health of Arnold, which I didn't pick it up. I didn't know really much about asthma. So I just went to the shop, bought a puffer and gave it to Arnold without education. The kid doesn't know. Arnold doesn't even know what a puffer is. Yes. And he would go to school. And because Arnold was a very quiet boy, he's very quiet. He doesn't complain. He doesn't talk. And if you quarrel him, he will not tell you anything. So he decided to keep to himself. And that's how he suffered slowly. And by that time, when he got admitted, he told the doctor, "I've got pain in between my legs." So they did a scan and they found out he's got a swollen liver, and the lymph nodes were all over in the head, in the neck, and it had gone to the liver as well.
The poor fellow. What happens next? What sort of treatment options did you go through?
So Ian, I was really I didn't even have education what cancer. I used to hear about cancer just like HIV, but I've never met with people with cancer. And when the scan started, they took a biopsy for the lymph node to test it. So it took a bit of a whole month for them to get a result. So we were in the hospital. And I used to go to Google just to check what cancer is, what is this one. It was giving me a lot of anxiety because nobody was talking to me, Ian. There was no education, there's no counseling, what to expect. So I was relying on Google, and Google was giving me a lot of scary news. And at that point, I started looking for a passport. One of my friends told me, "Can you take Arnold to India? India is it's a bit quicker, and they have got expertise and machines." So when I was preparing for the passport, I was doing these things alone, and it was really hard for me. So I was leaving my kid going around to apply for the passport. I didn't have enough money again because I had a lot of hospital bills to pay. And after a month, the report came that Arnold has non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And then after that 1 month, again, the whole month he was being transfused blood, more than 30 piles of blood, because he had really low hemoglobin. And when we were thinking of going to India, I sold a piece of my land thinking that I'll go. He wasn't able to fly, and the airline could not allow him because of his state. He had really deteriorated. So we decided, one of my friends gave me a phone number of a specialist who is a cancer doctor, and he sent me to that doctor to talk to him about his care. So we went to that doctor, and I think things got worse with that doctor as well. So things were not well. There was no communication. We will only be called when it's time for chemotherapy. When Arnold is having complication, he will not pick my call. Yeah.
I can see how that experience would inspire your own journey to want to provide better healthcare to the experience that you and Arnold have had. How old was Arnold when all this is happening? And you've got other kids as well to look after.
So Arnold was 16 years old when he passed away. It took him 9 months in the hospital, and then the disease, he succumbed to cancer-related complications. So I've got 2 more kids. Aaron is now 20 years old, and Ashley 16 years old. Yeah. And
what's happening for you as their mum at this time? As you say, you're trying to do so much. You're trying to look after 3 kids, you're selling land, you're thinking about going to India, you're trying to get the best care for your boy and for your family. What sort of impact does that have on you, Josphine, as a human, as his mum?
I think I went into a very bad depression. I wasn't thinking about my kids anymore in the house. They were living with my relatives because I never went home. So my home was in the hospital. Right. So my head was in Arnold's life, looking at him. He cannot walk anymore. I developed depression. I had lots of ulcers in my mouth because I was not eating. And the doctors also put me in medication as well in the hospital. Yeah. And they thought I might even die before him because it was really bad. I started getting confused and things were not working well. I really got out of space with myself. And my kids would come, like they would be brought to the hospital to see their brother, and I would see them. I would just start crying because I didn't know what to do. And being a single mother, it was really hard for me at that point.
What impact did the lack of communication have for you? You've touched on that a number of times, the fact that you had to go to Google to find stuff out, that there was really poor communication from the health professionals you were working with, that you were hoping were doing the job for your son. What impact did that poor communication have on your mental health?
As I said before, Ian, when we talk about trajectory of diseases, the way Australia do it, the patient is taken through the journey of their disease. You get to know where you are and where you are heading to. So at that point where you are told your illness, like the possibility of cure is not there, they try to reduce some things like medications, and which reduces the cost of treatment as well. So you see, like my son, Ian, nobody told me where we are going. We had to spend at some point, I was given opioid with hospice care in a bottle. I don't know what hydromorphine is. I had to go. So anytime my son is in pain, I'll just be giving morphine, 10 meals, 5 meals. I don't know what to do. So he went into a coma. He had to stay in ICU for 17 days. I had to pay a lot of money. And after ICU, he didn't pick it up again. But the doctors were not telling me anything. And then the platelets went 0. And my son was bleeding. Like for a whole month, he was just bleeding from everywhere. And you can imagine if they would have told me earlier, we would have thought of going the palliative way. We control the symptoms and the pain, and we just make him rest in peace.
Yeah. In Australia, we need to, I guess, improve our awareness and our acceptance of death and dying. It's a real taboo in Australian culture and Australian society. Are Kenyans any better at dealing with death and dying? What's the Kenyan culture when it comes to end of life?
Oh, God. Ian, let me tell you. Once you have, let's say, I'll talk about cancer, not leave alone other terminal illness. So once you have cancer in Kenya, people, first of all, associate you as it's either you did something evil to get that disease. Second thing, they will think maybe you are bewitched, or maybe, like you've gone to the sorcerers or something has happened to you. So people will try to keep away from you because they know there is something wrong with you. So you see, in Australia, it's better. People know illness, there are terminal illness. This is a chronic disease where at some point I might not be able to get treatment, vis-a-vis Kenya, where people think otherwise. So you see, you're better off, you're getting there. So that's why I need to go back and spearhead that education and training and try to get people on board.
Look out, Kenya. Josphine is on the way. I imagine that only compounded your mental health issues as well. There's that lack of communication from the health system, but then you've got all these, I guess, societal taboos and pressures. If cancer is seen as being something that is inflicted on people from the spiritual world, that must have just compounded your isolation.
It is, yeah. So, like, Ian, I want to remember this, like when my son got cancer, I think I lost a lot of friends and even family members. It reached a point I was alone in the hospital. I only have one friend who came to Australia, who used to call me and just getting in touch to know how I was doing. And the only time I saw people is during the burial. And I would remember one story, Ian. When my son died, like we buried him today, one of my neighbors who was sick in the hospital died. And I heard someone saying, who is a preacher, he said, "Oh, that boy died. He's the one now taking the lives of people in the neighborhood." Just because he died of cancer,
Yeah.
it's a spirit. He brought the spirit of death in this community. So you can imagine the stigma around cancer, even with the people who know God, the people whom you think they are mature enough even to help the community understand about cancer. Yeah, it's quite tasking even in my brain, like, to think about it. But I think it's just ignorance. That's what I would say. Yeah.
How do you move beyond that, Josphine, to be the strong woman you are today? How did you get past that? Arnold dies. There's all that grief and bereavement that comes with that as his mum, but there's also all that other stigma that you're dealing with too. How do you get healthy again? How do you get well again?
So what I did, Ian, because of the burden I saw with my son in the hospital, people started calling me. Like, I used to help a lot of neighbors at home and people who had cancer, because they knew I had links with some doctors. They called me and said, "Oh, I've been diagnosed with cancer. Where do I go?" And I told them, "What do you want me to do? I don't have anything." But again, I can't sleep at night. I went back, some of them, around 4 or 5, I took them to the hospital. 2 of them survived and 3 of them succumbed to the cancer-related complications. I would walk into the government offices. So I would take this patient to one of the doctors. There's one doctor called Dr. Elias Meli. So he's an oncologist. I would take the patient to his clinic and I will give him instruction. Start treating this person. I don't have money, but I will pay. Put the bill in me. So I'll go get the government pro forma to fundraise in the public. I will walk in the buses. I will walk in the markets. People will give me $5, $10, and that's how I raised their bill. And then I started writing letters to companies such as Safaricom is a mobile company. So I write to them, "I've got sick patients and I need support from your foundation." And they chipped in and helped these people. So that's the inspiration of now continuing to do what I was doing. People started coming to me and I started talking to them. But again, I saw it was a burden. I couldn't make it. How long? How far am I going to pay this bill? For how long? I won't be able to make it. So I registered a cancer foundation and named after my son, Arnold Cancer Foundation. Now I was looking for means of getting fundraising and getting ways to see how I can help people if I get funding. Yeah.
So you dived into life as a way of making yourself well again, it sounds like. You're engaging with your community, you're advocating for people. You dived into life in order to get yourself healthy and well again. Yes. How did you come to be in Australia?
Wow. In Australia, I've got a friend of mine whom we lived together. We lived together in Kenya before she relocated in Australia. She's called Sally Ndiwa. She's a registered nurse and she's relocated in Southern Australia. So Sally, she kept on checking on me and supporting me even while she was a student. And she saw the passion that I had with people who are sick. And she asked me, "Would you like to do nursing?" And then I told her, if I get that opportunity, that's what I want to do. So she inspired me and we began applications to get me into Australia. And that's how I relocated to Australia.
Wow.
Yes.
The rest of your family, are some of your families here in Australia with you?
Yeah, I'm here with my son Aaron and Ashley, and my sister, 2 sisters and brother are in Kenya, and my grandmother is also in Kenya. Unfortunately, I lost my parents, I think, a decade ago, but we are fine. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What a feeling it must have been to graduate as a registered nurse, given the story that you've just outlined, and I imagine really special to have your family with you here in Australia to see you graduate as a registered nurse.
Oh, Ian, few weeks to graduation. I've got few friends around here, including that friend of mine and their family and my kids here. I did apply for a visa for my brother and my aunt, but unfortunately they didn't get the visa on time, which is okay. But again, I didn't sleep the whole night because I was really imagining me walking in the podium and having the crown on me and looking at my age here. And, I'm 44 years. And, people said when I came to Australia, she's gone to look for greener pastures. There is no education. People just go there to look for greener pastures. But again, now I'm becoming the light of the world, So out of my experience of the pain that I've gone through, I can use that pain to be a light to others so that they can take up their pieces and do something for their communities to make the world a better place to live.
Wow, yeah. So great to have you here, as you say, being that light for the world. As you go about your work at Clare Holland House, do you talk about Arnold, or how does Arnold inspire your work at Clare Holland House?
Foremost, I also want to appreciate the University of Canberra. They featured my story during my graduation, and people at work call me a celebrity. So even after that, this interview, they'll say, wow, you are a celebrity. So out of that, so many people read my story. They know about me. Even the patients themselves, there are those who know about my story. And every day I work, I relate with Arnold. And I look at people while I look at them. Look at what Arnold went through. I didn't know anything about pressure area care. I didn't know anything about pain and symptom management. I didn't know about simple things like oral care, communication, involving patient in their care. All these things is in one basket. So as a nurse, I make sure I provide this quality care to this person so that they don't have the same experience that Arnold had. And I really enjoy doing that, Ian.
You touched on it before. You're keen to improve things in Kenya. What next for you? Tell us about that vision you have for improving palliative care, improving healthcare in Kenya.
Now, I have a bigger dream, Ian. First, this is what I have. I was sharing with one of my friends yesterday. So I'm on this palliative transition program for 1 year. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking after this, I want to specialize as a palliative care medical doctor. So wow. I think I'll be going further for my studies. Mm-hmm. I'm still looking around to see where I could get the scholarship, because if I'm going to Kenya to run a palliative care center, then I need more knowledge about this field before I go in to set up something tangible for the community. So I'm thinking I want to use that opportunity because we have good quality education in Australia. We've got the support over here, so that 3 years I can take up that challenge to do the palliative care studies. And then I'll be traveling home this year in Kenya. I'm going to look for a piece of land. And then out of that, I want to register maybe Arnold Cancer Foundation here in Australia, and then think of ways to get support and start to build that cancer center. So in the next 5 years or so, maybe we will be running the palliative care center in Kenya.
So exciting. Is there something that people can do to support you now, to help this vision now, Josphine?
Yeah. Like currently, I want to purchase the land, but I don't have the cash. I'm just going home, maybe to take a loan or something like that, because I really don't have. I've just finished my studies as an international student, mm-hmm. So I don't have like tangible cash to buy the land. So I'll be looking like $50,000. I just want to go and get a piece of land, and then out of that, the other things will fall in place, because I'll need to start getting machines in place, equipments to manage this hospital as well, and getting people on board to support me. So that's what I'm looking. That's the plan that I have at the moment, just to have the land in place, and then I'll fix up my education. Then after 5 years, I think so, things will be rolling out.
We're right behind you, Josphine.
Tell
me about Kenya. It's a mysterious country for many Australians, not a country that many Australians know well. What do you love about Kenya? What do you miss about Kenya?
I think, Ian, you're missing it out, because Kenya has been rated, I think 2021, it's the most, it's the best country for tourist destinations. So it's unfortunate that you've not been there, because it's been the best for the last 7 years. That is the research that we're having, and you've not been there. So look at Kenya. We've got wild animals, including, we have more than 50 parks and reserves. That's why tourists go there. We also grow things like coffee, and we export them, and we get more than 4.5 billion per year out of the export. We have flowers. We also have our tradition. It's very unique. We've got our traditions, which is very unique. And in Kenya, remember, we are the fastest people in the athletics. So we run like Kipchoge Keino.
Yes.
So we are in the top of the list of the world. So make sure you pay a visit to Kenya, and hopefully when we open Cancer Foundation, we will be there.
I would love to be there. Kenya is certainly on my bucket list, and whenever I see a Kenyan runner at the Olympic Games, I'm always cheering, and more so now, Josphine, that you and I have
Exactly.
your story.
Yeah, exactly. And the climate as well. It's very cold here in Canberra. In Kenya, our lowest is around 18 or 19 degrees. So Kenya is a bit warmer. Yeah.
Josphine, you're such an inspiration, such a powerful story. We wish you well. Please stay in touch and let us know how we can support you as your grand plans grow. We wish you well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you for having me.
Josphine Lokai, registered nurse at Clare Holland House in Canberra. Thank you for tuning in to Thursdays at 3, whether that's via PCA socials or Spotify, and engaging with matters of life and death. You'll find advice, tools and support at the Palliative Care Australia website, where you can also make a donation to support our work. See you next Thursday. Thank you.